Hey everybody, Fletch from All Things Overlanding here. On today's video, I'm again working with Trail Built, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about tire selection. Now, I'm going to link in the description below to a great article that they wrote on their website about kind of the different types of tires and kind of how to make your selection. But that's kind of what this video is going to be about. It's going to be talking about whether an AT, an MT, or an RT may be right for you, and what makes the most sense based on your application. Now, obviously, these are going to change based on, where you live, what kind of trails you hit, what kind of overlanding you're going to do, what type of vehicle you have, what size tires you can fit, right? So there's a lot of variables. So again, after you watch the video, if you want to know more, go to Trail Built in the description below, check out my setup on there, do some exploring, hit them up, ask them questions if you've got them. But so without further ado, let's dive into how to select tires, AT, MT, RT, what's right for you.
All right, guys, so if you are watching on YouTube, you can see that I am on Trail Built's website. I'm checking out this article that I mentioned, which I will link to in the description below, that sort of just goes through the different types of tires and kind of what they're right for, right? Now, I'm going to talk you through this article, but I'm also going to give you some of my experience, my feedback on top of it, just to kind of, flesh out a little bit what they're saying in this article. So, if you're newer to tires, if you're looking for recommendations on tires, this is going to be a good episode for you. Even if you're experienced and stuff, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what your experience has been and kind of what your thoughts are. Again, I'm going to try and keep it sort of high level because I am by no means a tire expert. I don't want to, portray myself to be such when I'm just, somebody that's had several off-road vehicles and gone through, multiple sets of tires. So I'm going to kind of, again, give you my feedback on my types of tires that I've had and kind of why I settled on the ones that I've got now. And I'm going to talk you through this article at the same time because they kind of touch on all the different types that I've had myself. So first of all, I'm going to jump around in this article a little bit because, I want to go in order of the experience that I've had with the Xterra with these types of tires, right? So when I first bought my Xterra, I bought it about almost 5 years ago now, back in 2017, end of 2016. And basically when I got it, it was bone stock. So 2005, had about 94,000 miles on it and came with the stock tires on it that were in good shape. Nothing wrong with them, but stock size on an Xterra is about 31-inch tires. I definitely was going to go with a 2.5-inch lift and some 33s because I wanted, some additional clearance. Obviously, the bigger your tires, the more clearance you're going to have underneath the vehicle because the bigger tires lift the car up higher off the ground, right? So I wanted to go with 33s because they're pretty easy to fit on an Xterra. They look aggressive, and they give you that extra clearance that I was looking for. So my first set of tires, I actually bought some Kendas because I've had Kendas before on my Jeep Cherokee that I used to have and loved them. They were great. They're really inexpensive tires when they're new. So I actually purchased those from eBay. I got a set of 4 Kenda Cleaver ATs, 33 by 11.5, I believe the size was. But they were great tires. I had them on for probably about 2.5 years on the truck. They're in my garage right now. I'm actually looking to sell them. So if you're looking to buy some used tires and you're somewhat close to Indiana, I would love to sell you my stock Nissan Xterra SE wheels with Kenda Cleaver AT tires on them in decent shape. But I digress. So with the ATs, I bought them because, again, they were more aggressive than the sort of stock road tires that came on the Xterra before. They were a bigger size. They were 33s. They're still reasonably affordable. They weren't overpriced at all. And the nice thing is, especially at the beginning when I first bought my Xterra, it was the only vehicle I had at that time. I didn't have my other car that I have now, so I was daily driving the Xterra. And the ATs are great because on road, they have really good manners. They have pretty low noise, so they're not super loud tires like a mud terrain generally is because of the size of the lugs and the spacing in between the lugs. So it is sort of a more on-road tire that also has some characteristics that are slightly more aggressive, again, than like a normal street tire. So the ATs were a great option for me when I first started out. And again, they worked for a couple of years. I actually took them to West Virginia. I rode some trails in West Virginia on them and they did fine. But that West Virginia trip, watching everyone else with their MT tires go over some of the obstacles that, were a little more challenging for me, that kind of spurred me into thinking, I probably should look at something more aggressive because at that time I had picked up my car then, my Infiniti. So I had another car and I was like, I don't have to have this thing be the best on-road daily driver type thing. So I could go to an MT now and go more aggressive. As you're looking at the Trail Built website here, they say that, all-terrain tires have great on-road performance and the ability to ride on trails every so often. So, if you're mostly going to drive on road, this is a great option. They give you some suggestions here. The Toyo Open Country AT2, for example, allows you to do a little bit of everything. You can charge through gravel trails by morning and pick up your kids from the YMCA at night. So, again, they're kind of talking about the ATs being a good all-around option. They're not quite as good as mud tires or even like the hybrid XT or RT tires like I have now on the trail, but they'll do better than most stock tires, be a little bit more aggressive with the focus being on road use. But again, they don't have the big tread voids like mud tires and stuff. So if you're going to be going through a lot of soupy stuff, through a lot of mud, they're not going to clean out as well, and you're not going to have as good a traction. They're going to cake up, So again, you need to think about your application. That is another thing about this article is at the beginning, they sort of talk about things that you need to think about, right? Like, what do you need to think about when you're selecting your tires? Are you going to be going off-road more than you're going to be on-road? Like I said, mine, when I first got it, was more of a daily driver on-road. That's why I went with ATs. As I got a second vehicle and kind of got the rig to be a little bit more dedicated, that's when I decided to make the switch to mud tires. Here you can see that, they're kind of giving you some questions here on mud tires. So they're saying, before you make a purchase, here's what you should consider before you get mud tires. Will you be using the vehicle for daily commutes and occasional off-road adventures, or are you going to ride up mountains? Is your schedule all over the place? You never know where you'll be in your office or out in mud puddles. You need to have a good idea of what kind of riding you'll be doing before you select mud tires, because once you do that, there are some downsides to mud tires. If you're going to be doing a lot more off-roading than road travel, then a mud tire may be the right option for you, because that's what they're made for, right? They're made for the most intense terrain, mud pools, deep snow, sand, but they just don't perform quite as well on road. They also, in my experience, don't do quite as well in the wet, so you got to be a little bit careful when you're on MTs and it's raining or pouring down rain outside. Especially mine got a little bit worn and a little bit cupped, so then they were a little bit sketchy for sure. And then, of course, the noise, too. So that is a big consideration if you're going to mud terrain tires. If you daily drive your vehicle and, you're going to put a lot of miles on them, if you have a mud terrain tire, that first time, I'm telling you, the first time that I drove my Xterra after I mounted the mud terrain tires on my truck, it almost felt like the tires were square. You could physically feel the truck engine working to try and turn those tires, and they were, you could feel them going go 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 go, like hear the lugs actually hitting the pavement as the tires turn. And so it took a little bit of getting used to, for sure. And again, if it had been my daily driver at that point, would have been less desirable, right? Would have not been quite as good of an experience. Definitely a lot more noise, definitely a lot less comfort. But again, at that point in my off-roading, my overlanding, I wanted to hit the most gnarly trails possible. I wanted to have every bit of capability that I could. And I also, honestly, I liked the look of them. It made the truck look more aggressive. And when I bought my MTs, they actually came on the steel wheels, which I'll, show a picture of the truck here on those wheels. So I really liked the look of them. I liked the performance of them. Mine were actually a mixed set of MTs. So I bought them used off of actually one of the guys from P&P Engineering. And, it was half mud claws and half something else. I forget what the other half is. But so I had mixed MTs, which again is not ideal. If you can, go with something like a Trail Built and buy all matching tires, you're going to have better performance, more consistent performance, because you're not just mixing them up. Again, I got a really great deal on the tires used, and it got me to MTs like I wanted. So before I then upgraded to the current tires that I've got, I actually considered just buying tires and mounting them on the steel wheels. But again, then I ended up working with Trail Built and kind of selecting the level 8 MK6s that I've got now, and going with the RTs. So if you're going to go MT, you really want to make sure that you've got a pretty dedicated trail rig, that you are mostly, taking it off road, that you're not going to be taking super long highway trips or daily driving it. I mean, you can do it. There are some people that love MT tires and want to rock them all the time on their vehicles, and that's perfectly fine. And again, once I got used to it, it really wasn't bad at all, but there are definitely some downsides, reduced MPG, increased noise, reduced on-road capability. So those are some of the downsides that you've got to think of when upgrading to an MT from an AT or stock tires. And then finally, you've got the hybrid tires like an XT or an RT. So the wheels and tires that I've got now, I've got, level 8 MK6 wheels in 17-inch. And then I've gone back to Kenda because I really like the Kendas. So I have Kenda Cleaver RTs now, which the RT is sort of like a crossover tire. So it has big aggressive side lugs on it. It has, plenty of room in between the tire lugs to allow for clearing of mud and snow and that sort of stuff when you're off-roading, but they're not so big like MTs that they are, really loud on road. So it's got a very good mix. It's right in between the AT tires and the MT tires that I've got. They're still pretty aggressive off-road, but they're not terrible on-road. I just got back from a 1,500-mile round trip to Georgia to pick up my new rooftop tent. And, most of that was highway driving, honestly. And I will say there was a little bit of hum from the Kenda RTs, but nothing bad at all. Definitely not like an RT at all. Does not feel super aggressive, has really good on-road manners. It does well in the rain. I really haven't seen any downsides to the RTs over my old MTs for sure. Now, again, one of the advantages are that I have matching RTs now, right? So I've now finally become a full-grown adult person and bought new matching tires instead of mixed, used, crappy, old cupped ones. So that may be part of it as well. But definitely the RTs, are perfect for me because even on a lot of my trips, even though I use the Xterra primarily as quote unquote an adventure mobile or an overlanding rig, a lot of the times I still have to drive for hours on the highway to get to where I'm going, right? If I was going to go to the Ozarks from Indiana, it's 8 or 9 hours away. If I'm going to go to, the Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway or land between the lakes down in Kentucky, it's 5 or 6 hours away. If I'm going to go to the UP, it's 10 hours away. If I'm going to go to West Virginia, it's 10 hours away. So everything still involves some sort of long distance highway travel. So again, with going with, a hybrid tire like this, you get the best of both worlds. You still get the aggressive tread when you're off-road, but it's not so awful and unlivable on the road. So again, I've been super, super happy with my RTs. And again, I've probably put 2,500, 3,000 miles on them since I got them, mixed off-roading and on-roading, and nothing but good things to say about them. And again, the Kendas, in my opinion, are a fantastic tire and they're super budget-minded. So if you follow the channel, you know that I talk a lot about, trying to make smart decisions when it comes to purchasing new gear. Like, there are a lot of people that run out and spend, $2,000, $3,000 on wheels and tires for their rigs. My whole setup for all 5 brand new wheels and tires with TPMS, mounted, balanced, and shipped to my door was about $1,500. And again, I got those from Trail Built. There is a link in the description below to my setup if you want to check that out. It definitely, if you have an Xterra, it's a great setup. I would highly recommend it. But again, it was just so affordable and such a good option. And in my opinion, it's just a great looking setup for the Xterra, right? So, the performance has been great and I'm just really in love with them. I really am super happy with the wheels and tires. So, again, I hope that kind of helps a little bit, right? So let's kind of recap. So, and they have this on their website too. So if you click through that link below and check out their article about it, you can see this stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it, obviously. But so, if you are going to be primarily driving on-road, using it as a daily driver, and occasionally taking it off-road, an all-terrain tire is probably the best bet for you. If you have another rig, a daily driver that you drive, and then your truck is just like a weekend, camping truck or, that sort of thing, then a mud terrain tire may be best for you because it's going to give you the most aggressiveness that you can get, the most traction that you can get. And since you don't have to drive it every day, you don't have to deal with the downsides. If you are in between, so mine is not my daily driver, but I still drive it pretty long distances. I still do sort of mix it up and go between my daily driver and the Xterra, just based on whether I'm bored or not. In the winter, I drive the Xterra primarily. So for me, hybrid tires like an XT or an RT were the best bet. Because I want to have those good road manners on road, but I still want to have more aggressive than an AT tire off-road. I like to hit harder trails. I like to do more challenging stuff. If you're just going to do gravel fire roads, do an AT. Get the better gas mileage, get the, still slightly aggressive but better on-road manners, and just do an AT. If you're going to do more difficult stuff and still want to have a decent on-road manners, then a mixed crossover may be best. If you're going to hit nothing but like the hairiest, muddiest, nastiest trails, then get an MT. So again, I know this was high level, but I just wanted to kind of run you guys through it. I wanted to talk about this article that they had on their website. So definitely click through those links below. Check out this article that I'm talking about if you're curious, if you want to learn more, or check out my setup on TrailBuilt's website. And again, if you purchase something, just make sure where it says who sent you to check all things overlanding to let them know that I sent you, and I would appreciate it. So again, I hope that was helpful for you guys. I hope that was interesting for you, especially if you're newer to the whole AT-MT-RT thing. I hope that that's helpful. If you're not already, make sure to click that subscribe button, click the bell to be notified when new videos drop. Also in the description below are links to Facebook, Instagram, the podcast, or YouTube if you're on the podcast. And make sure to click those and come hang out and join the conversation on those platforms as well. So again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.